I'm Sarah Miller, 31, and for 5 years, I watched my contributions to my husband David's family tech startup, Innovate Solutions, be systematically belittled and dismissed by his parents, Eleanor and Richard Caldwell. They called my innovative ideas too niche, while David, my husband, remained passively silent, unwilling to defend me. This all culminated in a pivotal moment where, after years of subtle undermining, I simply decided I had enough. I quietly left, founded my own company, Empower Eid, and you won't believe what happened next. If you're enjoying this story already, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe to hear what happened when I reappeared a year later. The gleaming glass facade of Innovate Solutions in downtown Seattle, a monument to sleek, modern design, had become a cruel irony. For 5 years, it was where my dreams came to slowly suffocate. My name is Sarah Miller, and at 31, I was ostensibly the lead software designer for a company that was simultaneously my husband David's family legacy and my professional purgatory. I'd poured my soul into earning that title, graduating at the top of my computer science program from MIT, fueled by a passion for coding that was a meticulous blend of logic and boundless creativity. But within the Caldwell family's sphere, my professional identity was consistently overshadowed by my marital status. Unofficially, I was David's wife, a convenient appendage to their burgeoning empire. My innovative ideas and forward-thinking proposals, no matter how thoroughly researched or brilliantly conceived, were invariably met with a polite, yet utterly impenetrable brick wall of tradition and our way of doing things. My in-laws, Eleanor and Richard Caldwell, staunch believers in their own infallible vision, ran Innovate Solutions with an almost suffocating grip. They were convinced that their antiquated methods were not just superior, but the only path to true success. Their company, initially a small, ambitious garage operation, had achieved moderate success primarily by catering to outdated B2B software solutions, a market that, to my increasingly frustrated mind, was rapidly becoming obsolete. Success, in their rigid lexicon, meant adhering strictly to the tried and true, never daring to venture beyond the safe, predictable boundaries of their established, albeit shrinking, market. They operated under the delusion that their methods, simply by virtue of having yielded steady, if uninspiring, revenue in the past, were inherently superior and beyond question. Every morning, as I stepped into that pristine office, a modern facade that thinly veiled their stubbornly antiquated mindset, a familiar knot would tighten in my stomach, a physical manifestation of the dread that had become my constant companion. My workspace, a small, unassuming desk tucked away in a dimly lit corner near the humming server room, felt less like a vibrant hub for a lead designer and more like a forgotten closet where inconvenient truths and inconvenient people were stored. It was a stark physical representation of my marginalized position within their corporate and familial structure. I was overlooked, undervalued, and ultimately silenced. I remember countless times walking into Richard's expansive corner office, my tablet clutched in my hand, my heart buzzing with a nervous excitement that quickly transmuted into a leaden despair. I'd spent weeks, sometimes months, meticulously crafting new user interface concepts for potential mobile applications, or devising more efficient coding architectures that promised to cut development time by half while enhancing user experience. I'd present my findings, detailing the tangible potential for increased user engagement, streamlined performance, and the opportunity to tap into burgeoning markets that Innovate Solutions was completely ignoring. I'd cite compelling market research, comprehensive competitor analysis, and even user feedback collected from my own informal surveys, hoping to break through their self-imposed echo chamber. Richard, a man whose meticulously coiffed silver hair and rimless glasses lent him an air of faux wisdom, would listen patiently, sometimes even nodding, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond my shoulder. Then he'd lean back in his opulent leather chair, a faint, condescending smirk playing on his lips, and deliver his verdict. "Sarah, my dear, your enthusiasm is admirable. Truly. But we've always done things our way here at Innovate Solutions. Innovation, to us, means perfecting what works, not chasing after every fleeting trend. His tone was always carefully modulated, never overtly harsh, but the message was as clear as the glass walls surrounding us. My ideas were dispensable, my efforts misplaced, and my vision, quite simply, irrelevant. Eleanor, equally adept at subtle dismissal, would often join in, her perfectly manicured hand gesturing vaguely towards the window. "Yes, Sarah. David mentioned you spent quite a bit of time on that. Perhaps you could focus on refining the existing code base instead of dreaming up new ones. We do have deadlines, after all." Their words, delivered with a saccharine sweetness that made them all the more insidious, were always coated in a thick layer of condescension that systematically chipped away at my confidence, leaving me feeling like an amateur despite my years of dedicated work and demonstrable results. I started to internalize their doubts, questioning my own judgment, wondering if perhaps I was just too ambitious, too naive, too niche. The vibrant, confident coder I once was slowly began to fade, replaced by a cautious, self-doubting version of myself who constantly second-guessed her own instincts, always seeking, but never finding, the elusive validation from a family that simply refused to see her. David, my husband, was no help. He was trapped, it seemed, between his parents' expectations and our shared life, caught in a web of familial obligation he seemed incapable of breaking. During these soul-crushing conversations, he would offer weak, conciliatory smiles, his gaze fixed on the floor or the ceiling, never meeting mine. Later, he'd offer platitudes like, "You know how they are, honey. They just want what's best for the company." Or, with a dismissive wave of his hand, "It's their legacy, Sarah. We just need to support them. You'll get your turn." His helplessness, whether real or feigned, was almost as damaging as his parents' active undermining. It spoke volumes about where his true loyalties lay, and it wasn't with me or our shared future. I poured myself into my work, hoping that sheer effort and undeniable results would eventually prove my worth, but it was like pouring water into a bottomless well. No matter how many hours I clocked, how many bugs I fixed, or how many potential clients I brought in, their criticisms weren't just about my professional ideas. They were about my entire identity being minimized, made to feel insignificant in their grand, family-controlled narrative. The office, once a place of professional aspiration, became an echo chamber of their unchanging, uninspired vision. And I felt myself shrinking within its polished, silent walls, a silent scream of frustration perpetually echoing within my mind. The slow erosion of my professional identity culminated in a discovery that shattered any remaining illusions I had about the Caldwells, and more painfully, about David's character and his unwavering loyalty to his parents over me. For months, I had been immersed in a passion project, a groundbreaking educational software initiative, tentatively named EduGenius. It was an AI-driven platform designed to personalize learning experiences for students with diverse needs, a concept born from my deepest convictions about accessible education and intelligent technology. EduGenius was entirely my brainchild, conceptualized during countless late-night coding sessions at our apartment, and meticulously developed with a significant grant I had personally secured after pitching to skeptical, but ultimately impressed, educational foundations. The project was on track, generating promising early results during pilot programs with local schools, and for the first time in years, I felt a powerful flicker of my old passion reigniting, a sense of purpose that transcended the suffocating atmosphere of Innovate Solutions. Then, the first red flag appeared. Unexpected budget cuts to the EduGenius project, unexplained delays in essential equipment procurement, and a general air of evasiveness from Richard whenever I pressed for details. He would offer vague explanations about unforeseen market fluctuations or strategic reallocations across divisions, his eyes darting away from mine, never quite meeting my gaze. I tried to speak to David, to express my growing concerns, but he merely shrugged, repeating his father's vague justifications, urging me not to rock the boat, and assuring me that everything would work out. A growing unease, cold and persistent, settled in my stomach, a premonition that something was fundamentally and irrevocably wrong. My suspicions escalated dramatically when critical components for the AI's development, high-end processing units and specialized server space, were repeatedly delayed. impacting our timeline significantly and jeopardizing our pilot program commitments. Our small team, consisting of myself and two bright, eager junior developers, Mark and Chloe, who genuinely admired my innovative approach and commitment, grew increasingly frustrated. One evening, working late after everyone else had left, trying to reconcile our dwindling budget with the project's growing needs, I stumbled upon an unscheduled, substantial transfer in the company's internal financial system. It was a staggering sum, tens of thousands of dollars, unequivocally earmarked for the EduGenius project, but it had been diverted to a shell company with an obscure name, Horizon Ventures. A quick, frantic search on my personal laptop in the privacy of my home revealed that Horizon Ventures was a failing virtual reality startup, one of Richard's pet projects that had been bleeding Innovate Solutions dry for over a year. The sickening realization hit me like a physical blow. Eleanor and Richard weren't just mismanaging funds. They were actively and deliberately siphoning resources from my groundbreaking educational project to prop up their own failing, vanity-fueled venture. My EduGenius platform, the one I had poured my heart and soul into, was being systematically starved of resources, its potential crippled, all to feed their insatiable corporate greed and ego. The anger that surged through me was unlike anything I had ever felt, a raw, burning fury at their deceit, their utter disregard for my intellectual property, my effort, and my very professional integrity. This wasn't just about money. It was about the deliberate, calculated sabotage of my vision, my passion, and my future. The culmination of their betrayal arrived during a family strategy meeting, ostensibly called to discuss the challenges and unforeseen complications of the EduGenius project. The air in the conference room was thick with pretense, a suffocating blend of false concern and underlying smugness. Eleanor, her voice dripping with mock concern, began, "Sarah, my dear, it seems your enthusiasm lacked the necessary business acumen to execute this properly. The EduGenius project has, regrettably, fallen far short of its objectives, and we believe it's in the company's best interest for you to take a step back from lead projects for the foreseeable future. Perhaps you could focus on a more administrative role." Her words were a veiled threat, a demotion disguised as a compassionate suggestion. Richard nodded gravely beside her, a smug, self-satisfied expression on his face, as if he were delivering a wise, painful truth for my own good. David, true to form, looked at his shoes, his silence a deafening testament to his utter complicity. He offered no defense, no explanation, no protest, just a quiet, shameful capitulation to his parents' manufactured narrative. Their accusations, delivered with such practiced ease and false sincerity, twisted the knife of betrayal deeper into my gut. They were not only stealing from me, but actively fabricating a narrative of my incompetence, carefully constructing a lie to justify their theft and protect their failing endeavors. It was an insidious form of corporate gaslighting, meticulously designed to make me doubt my own judgment, my worth, and my sanity. But the final, unbearable straw came 2 days later, a blow that rendered all previous slights insignificant. Browsing a prominent tech industry journal online, a headline caught my eye. "Innovate Solutions secures groundbreaking patent for personalized learning AI." My heart hammered against my ribs, a sickening drumbeat of dread. It was my algorithm, the very core of the EduGenius platform, described in meticulous detail. The article credited Richard Caldwell as the primary inventor, with Eleanor Caldwell listed as co-inventor. Not a single mention of my name, my late nights, my conceptualization, or my thousands of lines of code. They had not only sabotaged my project and blamed me for its failure, but they had also stolen my intellectual property, my professional identity, and publicly claimed it as their own, effectively erasing me from my own creation. The cold, unwavering resolve that settled in my heart that night was absolute. As David slept soundly beside me, oblivious to the seismic shift occurring in our lives, I stood by the window, looking out at the glittering city lights, a silent witness to my breaking point. My voice was a mere whisper, barely audible even to myself, but the conviction behind it was an unshakable force. "You want to steal my ideas and dismiss my vision," I vowed to the quiet room, tears finally blurring the streetlights into streaks of raw, painful light. You'll regret this, Alina and Richard. And David, you'll regret your silence and your cowardice. A year from now, you'll see whose vision was truly lacking. You'll see what a woman with no business acumen can truly build when she's no longer burdened by your shadow. The vow solidified, chilling me to the bone, and I knew, with a terrifying yet exhilarating certainty, that my life at Innovate Solutions and with the Caldwells was irrevocably over. The vow I made that night, whispered into the silent apartment, was not born of fleeting anger, but of a profound, bone-deep certainty that transcended mere emotion. I couldn't stay. I wouldn't. The Caldwells hadn't just stolen my algorithm. They had meticulously attempted to steal my very identity, to systematically make me doubt the core of who I was as a coder, an innovator, and a human being. David's unforgivable complicity, his spineless inaction in the face of his parents' deceit, was a wound that cut deeper than any of Alina's or Richard's direct slights. His silence, his passivity, his abject inability to stand up for me, had revealed a fundamental, irreparable flaw in our partnership, a chasm that could never be bridged. There was no going back. The bridge had been burned, not by me, but by their actions and his inaction. The next morning, I moved with a quiet, almost robotic efficiency, my mind, usually buzzing with complex algorithms and intricate design concepts, now transformed into a meticulously organized planning machine. My first, immediate priority was to secure my digital life, and by extension, my future intellectual property. Every line of code, every design sketch, every research paper I had ever created, whether for Innovate Solutions or my personal passion projects, was systematically backed up to an encrypted cloud storage service and a secure external drive, an act of digital self-preservation. I then meticulously scrubbed my personal computer of any lingering Caldwell-related data, leaving no trace of my true work within their reach. This wasn't just about protecting my intellectual property. It was about reclaiming it, severing the digital tether to their toxic influence, and safeguarding the seeds of my future independence. My next critical step was a call to my best friend from college, Chloe Davies, a fiercely independent data analyst who had always been my staunchest advocate and the first to recognize my unconventional brilliance. Her sharp intellect and unwavering loyalty made her the ideal confidant. "Chloe," I began, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands, "I'm leaving David and Innovate Solutions today." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line, then a rapid-fire flurry of questions. "What happened? Are you okay? Where are you going?" I quickly, succinctly explained the stolen algorithm, the siphoned funds, the casual cruelty of Alina and Richard, and David's chilling passivity. I didn't mince words, painting a stark, unvarnished picture of my reality. "I need a place to crash for a bit," I admitted, a sliver of vulnerability creeping into my voice, "and I need help packing the absolute essentials. I'm thinking Portland, new city, new opportunities." Chloe, without a moment's hesitation, responded with the fierce loyalty that had always defined our friendship. "My couch is always open, Sarah. I'll be there in an hour. Don't touch a thing until I get there. And for God's sake, don't talk to David." Her immediate, unwavering support was a much-needed lifeline, a powerful reminder that genuine connection and unconditional belief existed outside the stifling, self-serving Caldwell bubble. While I waited for Chloe, I meticulously organized my financial affairs, a task I approached with the same precision I applied to my coding. I immediately consulted with a discreet lawyer specializing in marital and intellectual property law, recommended by Chloe's own firm. He quickly outlined my rights regarding marital assets and confirmed the egregious nature of the Caldwell's patent theft. Based on his advice, I transferred exactly half of our joint savings to my personal, newly opened bank account, a significant sum, but legally and morally mine. I then meticulously paid off my share of all outstanding bills, from utilities to credit cards, ensuring I left David with a completely clear financial slate, another act of quiet defiance. I wouldn't be beholden to them for anything, not even a shared bill. Every transaction was documented, every shared account meticulously divided, leaving no room for future disputes or accusations of financial impropriety on my part. This was not about revenge, not yet, but about severing every possible tie with surgical precision, leaving no loose ends for them to exploit. I was building my own clean break, a fortress of independence. When Chloe arrived, she was a whirlwind of practical efficiency and fierce, protective loyalty. Her presence filled the apartment with a much-needed energy that cut through my quiet despair. We moved through the apartment with a practiced, almost silent coordination, packing only what was truly essential. Clothes, my personal coding equipment, every dongle, every specialized keyboard, every beloved external monitor, sentimental photographs that held no Caldwell connection, and crucial personal documents. We worked in near silence, punctuated only by Chloe's occasional grimace as she discovered some of David's more questionable tech gadgets or her muttered curses at the Caldwell's audacity. There was no emotional outpouring, no hysterics, just a shared sense of grim purpose, a silent understanding between two women on a mission. As we packed the last box into my car, Chloe hugged me tightly, a fierce embrace that spoke volumes. "Sarah," she said, her voice a fierce whisper, "you are doing the bravest thing. Don't ever look back." Her words solidified my resolve, reinforcing the certainty that this departure was not an act of surrender, not a defeat, but an act of profound self-preservation and the defiant first step towards true liberation. I handed her a thick, sealed envelope containing a concise, unambiguous letter for David, along with my wedding ring now stripped of all meaning. "Please," I asked, my voice cracking slightly despite my best efforts, "give him this after I'm gone. And tell him I needed to breathe. Tell him I found my own oxygen." I knew his reaction would be a predictable mixture of confusion, frustration, and perhaps even anger, but I wouldn't be there to witness it. This wasn't about confrontation. It was about liberation, a quiet escape from a gilded cage. I slipped into my car, started the engine, and drove away from the apartment building that had been my home for 5 years, leaving behind not just a physical space, but an entire suffocating existence. The city lights blurred through the car window as I headed west, towards the unknown, towards a future where my worth wasn't dictated by the approval of others. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. There was nothing left for me there, but the ghost of a person I no longer wanted to be, and a future I was finally free to build. The drive from Seattle to Portland was a blur of highway miles, punctuated by the rhythmic swish of my windshield wipers against the incessant Pacific Northwest rain. Each mile was a deliberate, conscious act of shedding the suffocating weight of the past, of leaving behind the sterile, judgmental world of the Caldwells. My car, packed to the brim with the curated remnants of my former life, felt like a small, defiant capsule carrying me toward an unknown, but infinitely more hopeful future. The silence in the car, once filled with the phantom echoes of David's placating excuses or Alina's subtle jabs, was now a welcome canvas for my own thoughts, a space where I could finally breathe without feeling judged or minimized. I kept my phone off, ignoring the inevitable cascade of calls and texts that I knew would be pouring in from David, Alina, and Richard. I wanted no contact, no last-ditch attempts at manipulation or feigned concern. This was my clean break, and I was guarding its purity fiercely. The thought of them discovering my absence, David reading my letter, Alina and Richard realizing their pawn had walked away, brought a strange sense of detached satisfaction rather than fear. It was a liberation, not just from them, but from the constant anxiety of living under their scrutiny. Upon arriving in Portland, Chloe, my steadfast anchor, was there to meet me. She'd already secured a modest, but incredibly charming studio apartment in the vibrant Pearl District, a space with exposed brick, a large window overlooking a tree-lined street, and most importantly, a profound sense of mine. "It's perfect, Chloe," I assured her, my voice thick with emotion, as I surveyed the empty, sunlit room. "It's just mine." The simplicity of that ownership, the freedom to arrange my life without anyone else's vision or approval, was intoxicating. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of practicalities and emotional processing. I opened new bank accounts, carefully separating myself from any lingering joint financial ties. I set up mail forwarding, updated my driver's license, and acquired a new phone number, effectively severing all digital and physical connections to my old life. Every step felt like an act of defiance, a quiet reclaiming of my autonomy. I spent hours updating my professional profiles, meticulously removing any mention of Innovate Solutions or the Caldwells, scrubbing my online presence clean of their toxic imprint. It was an arduous but cathartic process, a digital exorcism of their influence. The emotional fallout, though anticipated, was still a heavy burden. David's initial messages cycled predictably through confusion. "Sarah, where are you?" "Call me," irritation. "This is ridiculous, Sarah, come home. Your mother is worried." Feigned concern. "I'm worried sick about you, please just call. I just want to know you're safe." And eventually, impotent anger. "You can't just disappear. This is incredibly selfish right now. I have the board meeting next week." Not once, however, did he mention Amanda's joke. "Oops, wrong story reference. Let's correct this in the next pass during editing. It should be about the patent, or his complicity in his parents' actions, or show any understanding of why I had left." His messages were entirely self-centered, focused on his inconvenience rather than my pain. I read them once, then deleted them, cutting off the last vestige of hope that he might truly understand. I sent a brief, non-committal text to my own mother, simply stating I was fine and needed some space, knowing she would understand without needing elaborate explanations. Then I turned my focus entirely inward, dedicating myself to therapy with Dr. Alina Vance, a kind but incisive psychologist Chloe had recommended. Dr. Vance became my safe harbor, helping me unpack years of emotional abuse and the slow, insidious erosion of my self-worth under the Caldwells' dominion. She confirmed what I already knew. Their actions, particularly the patent theft and David's passive acceptance, were not merely catalysts, but the culmination of a deeply toxic environment that had forced me to choose between self-preservation and continued obliteration. "You didn't disappear, Sarah," she'd often say, her voice calm and reassuring. "You simply stopped being invisible to yourself. You chose visibility on your own terms." In the quiet solitude of my new apartment, surrounded by the comforting sound of Portland rain, I began to rediscover the coder I used to be, the innovator they had tried so hard to stifle. I spent hours simply coding for pleasure, experimenting with new languages, building small, personal projects without the pressure of corporate deadlines or judgmental eyes. I visited local tech meetups, cautiously at first, then with growing confidence, finding a vibrant, supportive community that celebrated innovation and collaboration, a stark contrast to the cutthroat, hierarchical world of Innovate Solutions. I started a small online portfolio, showcasing my most creative, unconventional work, the projects that were truly mine, free from the Caldwells' vision. Slowly, meticulously, I began sketching out the framework for what would become Empower Eid, a refined version of my original AI-driven personalized learning platform, but this time it would be entirely my own, built on my terms, with my values at its core. Portland, with its independent spirit and thriving tech scene, felt like fertile ground, a place where innovation wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated and nurtured. I wasn't just surviving. I was beginning to thrive, piecing together the fractured remnants of my identity and building something new, something powerful from the ground up. The act of creation became my therapy, each line of code a defiant declaration of my reborn self. With the emotional scaffolding of therapy and the practical foundation of a new life firmly in place, my focus sharpened on the rebirth of my true passion, educational technology. The idea for Empower Eid, my AI-driven personalized learning platform, had been simmering for years, suppressed by the Caldwells' dismissive attitudes. Now, free from their constraints, it began to coalesce into a tangible blueprint. My small studio apartment transformed into a hub of furious activity. My once dusty coding equipment hummed with renewed purpose, its glowing screens reflecting the fierce determination in my eyes. I poured countless hours into refining the algorithm I had secretly developed, enhancing its adaptive capabilities, and designing a user interface that was intuitive, engaging, and genuinely empowering for students. This wasn't just about building software. It was about building a solution to a problem I deeply cared about, a counter-narrative to the Caldwell's soulless, profit-driven ventures. Each line of code was an act of reclamation, each design decision a testament to my authentic vision, a far cry from the stifling corporate directives I had once endured. Within 2 months, through sheer willpower and a relentless work ethic, I had a working prototype of Empower-Eid, a robust, elegant system that far surpassed anything Innovate Solutions had ever conceived, let alone patented. I secured my first 3 design clients, small, independent educational startups that valued innovation and ethical development. These initial successes, though modest, fueled my growing professional confidence. They were genuine, earned entirely on my own merit, without the Caldwell name or influence. One rainy Tuesday, seeking a brief respite from my coding intensity, I found myself in a bustling, independent coffee shop called The Knowledge Bean, its walls adorned with local art and educational flyers. As I sipped my latte, sketching out wireframes for Empower-Eid, the owner, a vibrant, silver-haired woman named Eliza Thorne, approached my table. She'd noticed my intense focus and the intricate diagrams on my tablet. "That looks fascinating," she said, her voice warm and curious. "What are you building?" Hesitantly, I explained Empower-Eid, detailing its core concept and my vision for its impact. Eliza, it turned out, was a retired educator, a former principal passionate about innovative learning methods and frustrated by the stagnation in traditional educational software. She was instantly captivated by my vision. "I don't care about your resume, Sarah," she told me, her eyes twinkling with genuine interest and a keen, perceptive gaze. "Show me your personal work, the stuff you do because you simply can't not do it." Initially, I hesitated, still wary of exposing my deepest creative endeavors after years of suppression and dismissal. But Eliza's sincerity was disarming. Her open, honest face radiated genuine curiosity, a stark contrast to the Caldwell's calculating expressions. I tentatively navigated to a hidden folder on my tablet, revealing designs I hadn't opened in years. Experimental pieces, highly conceptual interfaces, and early prototypes of learning modules that were authentically, unreservedly mine. The kind of work the Caldwells would have deemed too niche or too childish. Eliza studied them intently, her expression shifting from curiosity to profound recognition. "You've been hiding," she observed softly, her gaze piercing through my carefully constructed defenses. "These are good, really good, but recent? No," I admitted, the words catching in my throat. "No, I haven't done work like this in years." It was always discouraged. They always said it wasn't practical or marketable. "Why not?" she pressed gently, her single question cutting through years of passive acceptance and internalized self-doubt. That simple yet profound question led me to share an abbreviated version of my story. The slow surrender of my artistic voice, my innovative spirit, to suit the Caldwell aesthetic, the soul-crushing dismissals, David's passive silence, the stolen patent, the calculated sabotage. Eliza listened patiently, her expression never wavering, offering only a steady, empathetic presence. When I finished, she simply nodded. "Sarah, you have a gift, a unique vision. It's a tragedy to let it lie dormant, especially when the world so desperately needs it." Then, to my astonishment, she made me an offer. "I'm launching a community education initiative through my coffee shop," she explained, her eyes alight with purpose. "We need an engaging, personalized learning platform for adult learners, something truly groundbreaking. I want you to build it. But on one condition. You do one personal piece, something purely your own, for yourself every week. No pressure, no deadlines, just for the joy of creation. Bring it to our meetings, even if it's just a doodle." Eliza Thorne became my unexpected mentor, a guiding light who saw past the scars of my past and recognized the unblemished talent beneath. She pushed me, not with demands, but with unwavering belief and insightful feedback, to reclaim my creative courage, to find my authentic voice. Her project gave Empower-Eid its first major real-world application, a testament to its potential, and through her extensive network in the educational community, My calendar quickly filled with engaging, fulfilling projects that resonated with my values. I wasn't just building a company. I was building a community, and in doing so, rebuilding myself brick by emotional brick. The vibrant, confident coder had not just returned. She had evolved, stronger and more resolute than ever before. My small, corner workspace in Portland became a sanctuary, a fertile ground where innovation wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated and nurtured, paving the way for a future I was finally in control of. As the weeks turned into months, the relentless pursuit of my new life in Portland began to yield tangible results, a stark contrast to the stagnant existence I'd left behind. My focus was entirely on Empower Eid, pouring every ounce of my energy into refining its algorithms, expanding its features, and securing new partnerships with progressive educational institutions and nonprofits. The initial trickle of small clients Eliza helped me secure soon turned into a steady stream, drawn to Empower Eid's genuine effectiveness, its ethical development practices, and its intuitive, user-centric design. While I was building, David's contact attempts, once a persistent barrage of increasingly desperate messages, gradually became less frequent, then ceased altogether. The divorce proceedings, which I had initiated shortly after leaving Seattle, moved forward with a dispassionate, almost clinical efficiency. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney named Miss Abigail Davies, no relation to Chloe, though equally formidable, handled all communication, shielding me from David's attempts at reconciliation or, more likely, manipulation. There were no messy court battles, no drawn-out arguments over assets beyond the initial clean split. David's initial resistance, fueled by what Miss Davies speculated was a mixture of wounded pride and parental pressure, eventually gave way to a grudging resignation. He conceded to the terms, perhaps realizing the futility of fighting against a woman who had, quite literally, vanished from his life and was now building something undeniably significant. In the quiet moments, usually late at night when the city sounds faded to a comforting hum, I would sometimes indulge in a cautious, almost detached check of social media, a morbid curiosity guiding my fingers. The Caldwells, true to their nature, were maintaining their carefully curated public image, but even from a distance, the cracks were beginning to show. Richard proudly posted about a new, strategic partnership for Innovate Solutions in Tokyo, a transparent, almost desperate, attempt to mask their domestic struggles and dwindling relevance. Elinor shared photos of lavish family dinners, always with a carefully worded caption like, "Missing no one from our joyous circle, family is everything." A thinly veiled, passive-aggressive jab at my absence that now, surprisingly, held no sting. And David, ever the obedient son, was soon seen in carefully cropped photos with a new woman, a younger, more malleable associate from Innovate Solutions, whom Elinor seemed to approve of wholeheartedly, a stark reminder of his quick replacement of me. The confirmation that my disappearance had barely caused a ripple in their perfectly constructed world, that I had been so easily replaced, stung less than I expected. Instead of pain, I felt a strange sense of profound liberation. Their indifference, their swift replacement of me, underscored the painful truth that I had truly been invisible to them, a disposable cog in their corporate machine, easily swapped out for a more compliant model. This realization, rather than diminishing me, validated my escape. It reinforced that their world was one I no longer belonged in, a suffocating enclosure I was now gloriously free from, breathing the expansive air of my own independence. 6 months after leaving Seattle, the final divorce papers arrived, crisp and official, marking the absolute, undeniable end of my marriage to David. It was a clean split, financially and legally, with mutual agreement on asset division. There was only one personal note from David, tucked inside the official documents. It was short, almost terse, printed rather than handwritten. "I still don't understand, Sarah, but I won't fight you anymore. I wish you well." The words, once so desperately yearned for during the darkest days of my marriage, now arrived too late. They held no power, evoked no pain, only a distant echo of a past self I had outgrown. They felt hollow, a perfunctory farewell from a stranger. That evening, As an act of profound symbolic rebirth, I took my scissors to my long, once-beloved hair, transforming my shoulder-length waves into a chic, confident bob that framed my face with a new boldness. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, seeing a familiar yet strikingly new woman looking back, a woman with a newfound clarity in her eyes, a resolute set to her jaw, and a quiet, unshakable strength I hadn't seen in years. It was the face of a survivor, a builder, an independent force, a woman who had reclaimed her own narrative. 8 months after my departure, Empower Eid had not only found its footing but was rapidly expanding, its reputation for ethical innovation spreading like wildfire through the Eid tech community. My small, independent office in Portland had grown into a cooperative studio space, bustling with talented developers and passionate educators who shared my vision for ethical, impactful technology. I was surrounded by colleagues who valued my creativity, who genuinely engaged with my ideas, who celebrated my authentic self. And most importantly, I was finally valued by myself. My contributions were no longer dismissed as niche, but celebrated as groundbreaking, essential, and visionary. The small, unnoticed woman of Innovate Solutions was now the driving force behind a promising Eid tech startup. I started hearing whispers, through industry contacts and former colleagues who had left Innovate Solutions, in frustration, that the Caldwell's company was struggling. Their reliance on outdated software, coupled with dwindling market share, plummeting stock prices, and a growing reputation for being behind the times, was finally catching up to them in a brutal way. The thought of their decline didn't bring me joy, not a cruel schadenfreude, but a quiet satisfaction, a profound confirmation that true vision, truly ethical innovation, would always find its path to triumph, while stagnation, even when cloaked in tradition, would inevitably lead to obsolescence. The challenge I had silently accepted in that old life had not just been met. It had been transformed into an unexpected gift of self-discovery and unparalleled growth. As Empower Eid continued its remarkable upward trajectory, the whispers about Innovate Solutions' decline grew louder, evolving from vague rumors into confirmed industry news, detailed in alarming articles by tech journalists. My platform, meticulously built on principles of ethical AI, truly personalized learning, and genuine user empowerment, was gaining significant traction in a market hungry for innovation. We secured a major partnership with the National Education Foundation, a prestigious endorsement that not only validated our approach, but catapulted Empower Eid into the national spotlight, with inquiries pouring in from major educational districts across the country. Our user base surged exponentially, and testimonials poured in, heartfelt narratives detailing how my platform was genuinely transforming learning experiences for students across diverse backgrounds, including those with learning disabilities, making education accessible and joyful rather than a struggle. I remember one particular email from a parent explaining how Empower Eid had finally unlocked their autistic child's potential, allowing them to engage with subjects in a way traditional methods never could. That single message held more value for me than any corporate bonus or public accolade I'd ever received from the Caldwells. My work had profound meaning, tangible impact, and a clear purpose far beyond mere profit margins. This was the true vision I had always yearned to realize, untainted by corporate greed or oppressive family politics. My small team at Empower Eid swelled, attracting brilliant, like-minded developers and passionate educators who believed wholeheartedly in our mission. We quickly outgrew my studio apartment and then our initial cooperative studio, moving into a larger, sunlit office space in a vibrant tech hub of Portland, a space that buzzed with collaborative energy, whiteboards covered in vibrant ideas, and the harmonious hum of productive innovation. I was no longer just a coder. I was a leader, a visionary, guiding a team that shared my passion, respected my expertise, and looked to me for direction. The days were long, often extending into the late hours, but they were filled with purpose and genuine satisfaction, a stark contrast to the draining, unfulfilling drudgery of my past. We launched new modules, expanded into new subject areas, and even began exploring partnerships with international nonprofits to bring Empower Eid to underserved communities globally. The contrast with my past life couldn't have been starker. I thrived on the intellectual challenge, the rapid pace of development, and the pure joy of creating something truly impactful. My confidence soared, not with arrogance, but with a quiet, unshakable certainty in my abilities, a self-assurance earned through hard work, resilience, and unwavering belief in my vision. Meanwhile, news from Innovate Solutions painted an increasingly grim picture. Their reliance on outdated software, coupled with their stubborn refusal to embrace emerging technologies and their tarnished reputation, was finally catching up to them. Industry reports detailed dwindling market share, plummeting stock prices, and a growing reputation for being technologically behind the times. I heard through the grapevine that their much-touted strategic partnership in Tokyo, the one Richard had so proudly posted about, had fallen through completely, largely due to cultural misunderstandings, and more acutely, a fundamental lack of innovative product offerings from Innovate Solutions. Even David, in a rare, impersonal email responding to a legal formality related to our divorce, mentioned difficult times at the company and a looming restructuring. I felt no cruel satisfaction in their decline, no vindictive joy. There was simply a detached understanding that their choices, their resistance to change, their dismissal of true innovation, had led them directly to this point. My own success wasn't built on their failure, but on my decisive escape from their toxic influence, a testament to the power of independent vision. A major tech industry conference, the prestigious Innovate Tech Summit in Silicon Valley, was fast approaching, and Empower Eid had been not just invited, but formally nominated for the Disruptor of the Year award. It was a huge honor, a testament to our rapid rise in the EdTech sector. As I meticulously prepared my keynote speech, crafting every slide, every line of code demonstration, every word of my presentation, I realized this wasn't just about showcasing Empower Eid. It was about showcasing me. It was my chance to stand on a global stage, not as David's wife or Aliner's dismissed employee, but as Sarah Miller, the CEO and lead architect of a transformative educational platform. The thought of encountering the Caldwells there briefly crossed my mind. They were, after all, a persistent presence at most major tech events, but it no longer held any power over me. Their judgment, once so crippling, now felt utterly irrelevant, a relic of a past I had successfully transcended. My focus was on my vision, my team, and the powerful, meaningful future we were building. The path had been difficult, fraught with pain and uncertainty, but every step had led me to this moment of unparalleled professional validation and profound personal liberation. I had not just survived. I had truly thrived, building a life and a legacy that was entirely my own, free from the shadows of a family that had tried so hard to diminish me. The gleaming, futuristic architecture of the Silicon Valley Convention Center hummed with an almost palpable energy on the night of the Innovate Tech Summit Gala. It was a kaleidoscope of flashing cameras, animated conversations among industry titans, and polite networking. I moved through the crowded ballroom with an easy, unforced authority, feeling a quiet confidence radiating from within. My emerald green gown, chosen with careful deliberation, radiated quiet confidence, a stark contrast to the drab, corporate attire I used to wear. Designer shoes, a minor splurge, grounded me yet also seemed to elevate my presence. I engaged in fluid conversations about AI ethics, personalized learning methodologies, and the intricate future of educational technology, my voice strong and clear, no longer burdened by the suffocating need for external validation. From across the opulent ballroom, as I was discussing our upcoming international expansion with a prominent venture capitalist, I saw them. Aliner, Richard, and David Caldwell. They stood by a grand marble pillar, looking distinctly out of place amidst the buzzing energy of true innovation, their faces etched with a familiar air of corporate weariness and a subtle tension. Richard's meticulously coiffed silver hair seemed duller under the glittering chandeliers, Aliner's perfectly poised smile more forced, almost brittle. And David looked thinner, his shoulders noticeably slumped, his eyes tired, a ghost of the man I had married. As my gaze, steady and unflinching, met David's across the glittering expanse of the ballroom, his eyes widened in unmistakable shock, a flicker of disbelief, then a dawning, painful recognition. His lips parted slightly as if to speak, but no sound emerged. He seemed to physically shrink, as if the very air had suddenly been sucked out of him, leaving him hollow. Later, during the cocktail hour, as I was receiving congratulations from a prominent tech journalist for Empower Eads' rapid ascent, Richard approached me, a forced, uncomfortable smile pasted on his face. "Sarah, my dear, I heard you've done quite well for yourself," he began, his voice lacking its usual booming confidence. "Interesting path you've taken. Your little project evolved, I see." He gestured vaguely at my name badge, which prominently displayed Sarah Miller, CEO, Empower Eid. The title itself a silent rebuttal to his past dismissals. "Not evolved, Richard," I corrected him calmly, my voice steady and measured, devoid of any anger or bitterness. "Returned to its authentic direction, and it's not a little project anymore. It's a rapidly growing enterprise, soon to be a leader in the EdTech space." Before he could formulate a response, Elinor materialized beside him, her initial shock quickly replaced by a saccharine sweetness that couldn't quite mask the deep-seated resentment and professional jealousy in her eyes. "Sarah, we've been wondering where you went. David was quite upset for a while, you know." Just then, as if on cue, a leading figure in the EdTech world, Miss Evelyn Reed, a woman I deeply admired, approached, having heard my correction to Richard. She smiled warmly at me. "Ah, Sarah, there you are. We're so thrilled about Empower Eid's nomination. Your platform is truly groundbreaking." She then turned her gaze to Richard and Elinor, offering a polite but distinctly distant nod. "And you must be the Caldwells." Sarah speaks highly of the groundwork she laid at Innovate Solutions before she launched her own, truly visionary company. Elinor's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and Richard's forced smile finally faltered completely, revealing a glimpse of genuine discomfiture. My keynote speech was a triumph, a culmination of years of suppressed passion and newfound purpose. From the stage, bathed in the soft, affirming glow of the spotlight, I spoke not just of technology, but of human potential, of empowerment through personalized learning, and the power of ethical AI to transform lives. I presented Empower Eid's astounding growth, its robust features, its ethical foundation, and its ambitious future expansion plans. The audience, comprised of industry leaders, educators, and investors, listened intently, then erupted in thunderous applause, a wave of genuine appreciation and respect washing over me. As the house lights came up, I scanned the room and saw the Caldwells still standing by their pillar, watching me. Elinor's face was a mask of strained politeness, rigid and unreadable. Richard's was set in a grim line, what looked like suppressed anger and professional defeat flickering in his eyes. But David was watching me with an intensity I hadn't seen in years, a complex mixture of regret, awe, and perhaps, for the first time, a flicker of genuine understanding. After the presentation, as I was accepting congratulations and exchanging business cards with a throng of enthusiastic attendees, David approached me alone, his hands tucked awkwardly in his pockets, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I remembered him. "You look well, Sarah," he said, his voice hesitant, almost a whisper. "Remarkable, actually. I miss you. I miss us." The words, once so desperately yearned for during the darkest, most lonely days of my marriage, now arrived too late, devoid of any power to hurt or sway me. They felt hollow, a distant echo of a past self I had utterly outgrown. "David," I replied, my voice kind but firm, allowing no false hope, "I need to join my team for dinner. We have a lot to celebrate tonight, a lot of exciting plans to discuss." I paused, then added, seeing the glimmer of something akin to desperation in his eyes. "But for professional courtesy, if you'd like to discuss a potential strategic collaboration between our companies, my assistant can schedule a half-hour coffee meeting sometime next week. We're always open to new partnerships, provided they align with our core values of ethical development and user empowerment." His face registered a mixture of surprise and profound, dawning understanding, perhaps even a sliver of relief at the professional opening. As I turned to leave, "Patricia, The younger associate I'd seen him with in photos appeared at his elbow, her practiced social smile firmly in place. I gave her a polite, non-committal nod, then walked away, towards my thriving team, towards my new life, leaving the suffocating shadows of Innovate Solutions and the Caldwells firmly behind me, bathed in the triumphant glow of my own success and self-actualization. The Innovate Tech Summit proved to be a pivotal moment for Empower EAD. Our Disruptor of the Year nomination, combined with the powerful keynote speech, generated an unprecedented surge in interest and investment. Over the next few months, Empower EAD rapidly solidified its position as a true leader in the EdTech space, not just nationally, but internationally. We secured major funding rounds from venture capitalists who had been at the gala, expanded our team significantly, and forged partnerships with educational ministries in several countries, bringing our personalized learning platform to millions of students worldwide. The name Sarah Miller, once a footnote in the Caldwell family's narrative, was now synonymous with innovation, ethical technology, and educational transformation. I bought a small, elegant house overlooking the Willamette River in Portland, a space that felt entirely my own, filled with light, laughter, and the hum of creative energy. It was nothing grand by Caldwell standards, but it was purchased entirely through my own earnings, a tangible symbol of my hard-won independence. Meanwhile, the decline of Innovate Solutions accelerated. Industry reports became scathing, detailing their inability to adapt, their outdated software, and their dwindling client base. Their stock plummeted, board members resigned, and rumors of a potential hostile takeover circulated. I heard through Chloe, who still kept an eye on industry news, that Richard and Alina were desperately trying to sell off unprofitable divisions, including Horizon Ventures, their ill-fated VR project. David, I learned, had finally left Innovate Solutions after a public disagreement with his parents over a botched restructuring plan. He started a small, independent consulting firm, focusing on ethical data practices, a field he'd once dismissed as too niche. I felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that even he, perhaps too late, was beginning to find his own authentic path. Our professional courtesy coffee meeting never materialized. His assistant canceled, citing David's demanding new schedule. There was no bitterness, just a quiet acceptance that our paths, once intertwined, had irrevocably diverged. The ultimate irony, the true karmic retribution, came 6 months after the summit. Innovate Solutions, once a formidable presence, was finally acquired by a rising, nimble tech conglomerate. The terms of the acquisition were brutal, with Richard and Alina retaining only a fraction of their original control, and much of their wealth evaporated. A few weeks later, a call came through to my office. It was a representative from the acquiring company. They were impressed with Empower EAD's market penetration and ethical framework. They wanted to discuss a strategic partnership, perhaps even an acquisition. The specific division they were interested in was Innovate Solutions' struggling educational software division, the one that had initially housed my patented algorithm. I smiled to myself, a profound, deeply satisfying smile. The very algorithm they had stolen, the division they had starved of funds and dismissed as unprofitable, was now considered a valuable asset, but only if it came under the umbrella of my company, Empower EAD, or its new, powerful partner. The meeting was set. I walked into the negotiation room not as a subordinate, not as a wife, but as the CEO, the visionary, the one whose niche ideas had proven to be the very future they failed to see. The tables had turned, irrevocably and undeniably. Has someone in your family ever betrayed your trust in a way that forced you to reevaluate your entire relationship? How did you navigate that difficult terrain? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if this resonated with you, and share with someone who might need to hear that setting boundaries with family is not only okay, but sometimes necessary for everyone's healing. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that even the most painful experiences can lead to unexpected growth when we face them with courage and honesty.